The following is just an example of the program tracker. So you'll see here I'm actually going to add an axis to the whole entire video file so we could actually see our data values in correlation to the two objects we're working with. Right here you'll see me holding a ball, and I'll be stopping right at the origin or the 0 point on the axis and letting the ball fall to show an example of inertia, aka when an object's at rest stays at rest, but an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So first things first, you'll notice I added 2 points of masses. The first mass I'm going to add right here will be for the ball. The second mass will be for my hand, or just the body, which is going to stop moving once it hits that origin point, which again isn't perfect, but it's pretty much on target. So when using tracker, you'll notice that you could select anywhere for a point of mass, and then what you can do is actually change the color or the name of the mass so you don't get things screwed up. So I'm going to make the hand a blue symbol. I'm also going to make a footprint or just the symbol of it as a triangle so I don't mix the two up. And again, I will just name it hand. You'll notice on the right hand side you'll see plots and data points that you can see, but we're going to start with the ball. So I'm going to select both of that for the data table and the graph that will be created. You could also select if you want to actually see the x-axis, the y-axis component, but we'll go into that a little bit later. Now you'll notice I'm moving my origin down a little bit to try to match up with that actual point of mass for the ball itself, so we could get to the 0 point as best as we can. And again, it won't be perfect. Once you've lined up your axes with the actual object, I'm going to go ahead and just actually start auto tracking the ball. It's pretty simple. So all I want to do is right click on the object or the point of mass I created, hold down Shift Control and click on the object, and it's going to actually take a snapshot and look for that color scheme. Now you have two options. You can either click search, which will continually search, or search next, where it will do each frame at a time. Just in case it screws up, it's easier to fix it that way. So now I'm just going to click on search as in play the whole film, and it's going to record the object throughout. So each point's being created automatically. I don't have to go back unless it does screw up, which is why sometimes you only want to do search next so you can move those points easily. But for the ball, it's pretty much the only orange object in the environment, so it's not going to screw that up. Now, one thing you might want to do is actually use an LED light on objects that are not within the environment colors so that I could track it a lot easier. So for example, here I'm going to go ahead and do an auto tracking with my hand, and it's going to screw up at some points. But if I was wearing something like a bracelet or had an LED light on my wrist that was easy to pick up, I probably wouldn't have to do that. But it's still pretty accurate even if you don't do that. Now, if you're doing this with students, remember you're going to have to make sure to go at this at a slower pace, especially if they're not familiar with software like this. So I'm going to search next a few times just to make sure it's going to follow my wrist correctly. And once I get to a certain point, I'm actually going to click stop. And the reason for that is because at this point, it will start screwing up and it might go ahead and target the wrong spot. So as you see, my forearm was selected even though I don't want that. So I could simply move that point, that key point, to where I want it to be. Now I could keep on doing this, which is going to become tedious, or I could reset where I want to auto track to a different point around my wrist. So if I hold down Control Shift and actually reselect my auto tracking point, it's not going to reset my data, but it will go ahead and try to make the tracking a little better at that point. So now I'm going to actually try to just do a full search without hitting search next again. And as you see now, it's picking it up a little better. But again, when that happens, you can click stop and reset that process. When I right click on the graphs, I could actually compare the two data sets and create an analysis. Now, if we look at the analysis in front of us, you can actually see the graphical relationship between the motion of the mass of my hand versus the ball. And you'll notice that if we look at the x-axis data on the left side, that's what we're recording, that my hand stops on the x-axis way before the object of the ball does. That actually shows inertia in action. In other words, my body or mass stopped. However, the ball kept on going. It did go downwards because of the outside force of gravity and finally stopped when it hit the ground. However, it does show the initial relationship graphically and does so pretty well.